It's just gonna be me tonight, unfortunately. The other guy who was gonna do it with me had something come up, so
Totally
um,
fine.
but I'm the coolest one in the band, so don't worry about
Okay,
it.
perfect. As long
Yeah,
as I got the cool one, then that's all that matters.
yeah, you're set. Don't worry.
My only question for you is, do you have an unopened beverage on your end that
Yeah,
you
yeah. I don't drink, but I grabbed some NA beers today just for the occasion. So
hell yeah,
we're here. We're good.
sick. Well, I usually do the opening crack if you want to crack that one with me if you haven't cracked it already.
Let's go.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll count us down. We'll crack these. I'll do the intro and bring you in.
Let's go.
All right. In three, two, one. Welcome to the Beers with Bands podcast with your host, Michael Torres. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Beers with Bands. I kind of mentioned it on the last episode where I'm kind of starting to hit all these St. Louis bands randomly now after focusing on Wisconsin and Michigan for a while. I'm very stoked to have this band on. I'm sitting down with Squint tonight. How you doing?
What's up? It's Brennan. I got my girlfriend's name as the little we're using her computer tonight, but yeah, I'm Brennan. I sing in Squint. What's up?
Dude, I'm so stoked to have you on. Like I kind of said before we fully started, like this record that we're gonna talk about tonight is phenomenal in every aspect. It's been a joy to listen to. So I'm very stoked to be having Squint on the podcast and specifically you, Brennan. The cool one out of the band. I was lucky to get. Um, before we get too far, obviously we said who you are and what you do, but I know we are missing a few members that couldn't join
Hmm.
tonight. Who are they and what do they do in Squint?
So we have two guitarists. There's Ian O'Leary and Dave Shanley, and they're like best buds. They've been in tons of bands together. So they're kind of like, the two guys that like finish each other's sentences and then they also finish each other's riffs kind of things. And then Will plays drums, and then Jake plays bass, and they're both guys I was in hardcore bands with to varying degrees in the past. Like Jake, I've been in every hardcore band I've ever been in pretty much with Jake. He got me into the music genre in like seventh grade. So he's been there for like the whole thing. And then Will, I played in some bands with when I was in like I was like a late teen. We both grew up around the same area and we both ended up in St. Louis. So we're in another band now. But those are all the guys.
Hell yeah. Well, like I normally say for the members that can't join us, this is where we kind of pour one out in their honor. By pour one out, I just mean we have a drink in their honor since they're not here with us because we don't waste alcohol on this podcast. So this is to
Yeah.
the
Oh,
rest of
yeah.
the guys. Sorry, were you gonna
Yeah,
say
my girl
something?
would kill me if I poured that out. So just
uh,
that my girl, she would not be cool with me pouring a puddle of beer on the ground. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate that. It's going in the gullet.
right. But it's awesome that you guys are. I know you guys are coming from different bands when Squint was formed, but it's awesome that it's like not just like kind of random people you guys are coming together with. It's like you're all been friends or knowing each other so for so long. It's like you guys have like at least a closer connection than just like starting a random band like Craigslist band. Not that there's anything wrong with Craigslist bands, but it's nice that you have that like connection to make this like a lot smoother going into this. Obviously, you guys have been around for a little bit longer than just a couple of years at this point, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a few now. I think we started in 2022. So I mean it's just a little over a couple, but uh but yeah, it's there's definitely, there's some pros to, playing with a bunch of strangers and stuff like that. But there's definitely the nice comfort of playing with people that we've known for a long time and stuff. And it's also cool because we all come from different backgrounds musically. Like
mm,
I'm definitely the most kind of involved in the hardcore scene and community in the band. And then, some of the other guys like Ian, who plays guitar in the band, he's predominantly played in a lot of like pop punky bands growing up and stuff like that. And this is probably the harder band he's been in. Whereas for me, it's like the softer band that I've been in. So St. Louis kind of has that kind of small scene to where, everybody gets along and everybody accepts each other. Um, like I'm very friendly with a lot of kids in the community and like that go to shows that listen to music that I cannot stand. Like there might be like deathcore kids or like I don't even know what they listen to kind of kids, but
Yeah.
we're all able to come together for that one thing and it it creates like a really cool end product, when you're playing with people from different backgrounds and stuff like that. So yeah, it's nice that we have like this familiarity with each other personality wise, but we're all constantly showing each other new things. Um, like maybe Will's like, yeah, I stole a national drum fill for this new song. And I'm like, what is the national? And he's showing me that, and then I'm like, Will, that drum fill you did in the other song sounds like breakdown. And he's like, what is breakdown? And I'm showing him. So it's cool to expand your musical horizons and, like what you're doing with the people you work with and stuff like that. So
And it's nice too because like on the record it really shows like the different influences coming through rather than just like being five dudes that listen to like straight like like East Coast hardcore. If you just listen to that straight and like just had the your end product, it's nice having like you said like more of like a pop punk drummer sometimes in there that isn't used to doing as many breakdowns or isn't aware that they're doing those breakdowns.
yeah,
Like it's the same like when you get a pop punk band and they have like this riffy guitar player that only listens to like hardcore because then that shit comes out like so sick, better than like
yeah.
it normally would be.
No, I think the outer influences are like the most important thing in the genre you play. Like if you only listen to one genre of music, and it took me a long time to realize this, because I was such a firm, stubborn, hardcore kid growing up that it wasn't until my later years and stuff that you know, you can listen to other bands and you can find, like the through line through it all. Like maybe you're listening to like a Caius record or like, old Soundgarden or something, and you're like, whoa, there's a power trip riff. Like they stole that, like
Right.
that's so cool. And you wouldn't find it if you weren't, digging through the crates and other stuff. And I had that kind of thing with hardcore and hip hop all the time,
Mm,
where I'll be digging through old hip hop stuff and hear one line in it and be like, whoa, that's like used in a E-Town Concrete song or something like that. You know what I mean?
right.
And um,
I think one of my favorite like little interviews, it pops up every once in a while, but it's Method Man breaking down like the Method Man song, and just like you think of like the Wu Tang being like big back in the '90s, you just think like okay they're only listening to rap, but he breaks it down. And he's like, no, I took like this hook from Hall and Oates, I took this from the Beatles, and just like seeing all that influence come through, like it changes the aspect how you listen to the song, but it's also cool just to like see how it gets incorporated into like the end product.
it's like one of my favorite parts of music as an adult, is like um, it's something I didn't notice as a kid because I was just so engulfed in the magic of music, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That as I get older and as I become more of a musician myself, and I like step into that role more, I start noticing, myself doing it and stuff like that. And I'll leave little Easter eggs on the record and stuff like that where, maybe there's like a Youth of Today lyric in like this otherwise, like Third Eye Blind sounding song. You know what I mean? And like just little things like that. So the people who do find it, who are aware can be like, and it also just comes about naturally. So yeah, influence is such like a cool thing to me. And also just finding out how, you know, like there's a kid at my work who likes Metallica and I've been running with it. I've just been, we've been working two-man shifts. I'm a chef and he's been like my prep guy during the day. So I've just been like, "Oh, you like Metallica? We're gonna check out Mind Force today." And then the next day it's like, "All right, you like Mind Force? we're gonna take a step back. I'm gonna show you leeway, And the other day we went through like from Judge to Strife to like Foundation to like Magnitude, And it's cool having just younger kids, who are like slightly interested in the stuff, be able to be like, oh, I hear that. I hear where this turned into that, and this turned into that, and this turned into that, And um, yeah, influence and stuff like that too will help you write music so much, Like if you can like understand, if you want to be in a band that sounds like Knocked Loose, that's cool. And you can make a band that sounds like a band that sounds like Knocked Loose. But if you want to sound like Knocked Loose, you should like go to what they're listening to,
Yeah.
and look at what they're influenced by and like try and pull from that. So it's like I always encourage like the younger kids to do their homework and stuff like that, and uh yeah, I feel like I got off on a crazy tangent there, but
No, dude, I love it. I love that you're doing kind of like the Lord's work with your prep person of just like showing them all this other material that's out there at the same time. Because like growing up, I kind of had that like a similar situation, but it was like an older kid on my bus, and he would just like hand me like burnt mix CDs every once in a while, and I that's how I like found out about like Limp Bizkit and like fucking Slipknot and like Corn and all that stuff. Turns out ICP was part of that record, that mix too, which that was a whole another route that I wasn't prepared for. But
yeah,
like just getting that stuff and like getting like opening your mind to it and just finding that other stuff that's like you mainly grow up listening to what your parents listen to, but like to open that and just like open that door. I miss those days of just being able to do that.
yeah, the feeling of that, yeah. Yeah, when I was a kid, there was a venue in where are you located at?
I'm in Minneapolis.
Okay. Then you may have heard of it. I don't know. It's got quite a bit of like notoriety, but there's a place in Springfield, Illinois called Dumb Records, and they've been having some crazy hardcore shows over the last like 4 or 5 years. And prior to this to that venue, there was like a its father venue, this place that I grew up, called the Black Sheep Cafe, and it was just an all ages venue that it was like um I don't know how it kept its doors open. All they did was, throw hardcore shows, and it was all like donation based. So, but there was a dude who used to run it named Kevin Black Sheep. That wasn't his real name, obviously, but that was his like title.
Yeah.
And one of the first shows I went to there was like a big stack by the door when you left. There was a big stack of CDs, burnt CDs that said "Know Your Roots" on it, and on the back of it or whatever, it said write down the track numbers you like and talk to me. And so I went home and I listened to it. It was like 16 songs or something, and it was like Gorilla Biscuits, Youth of Today, Judge, Madball, all kinds of stuff. And I remember going through it and kind of like you said with the ICP thing, like Gorilla Biscuits came on, and I recognized the song from the Tony Hawk game, and I
Mm.
was like, this is awesome. I know this one. So I wrote down like track two or whatever. And then I skipped to the next one, and it was like 25 to Life or something like that. And I was like, oh, skip. And then you keep going, and then it's like, all right, I like this Madball song, like track five. And then the next time we went to the Black Sheep, I brought the CD back to Kevin, and he gave me more info on. This was like during the time of the internet and stuff like that, so it's not like he had to give me records and stuff like that, but it was the equivalent. He like, these are the records you need to go check out. These are the other bands in that style that you might like. And it just like opened a whole door for me. And like from there on, Kevin was like who I went to. Like he just was like my connection to the past, kind of.
That's awesome. Oh man.
Yeah.
Uh, to get back into, obviously you're here to talk about your band, which we'll get back into, and I'm sure we'll tangent a little bit more onto to hardcore and stuff like that. But like you said, Squint's been around since about 2022. You guys have currently two EPs out, which did make its way into like a double EP LP. Uh, One called Feel It and one called Wash Away, which I had a pleasure of listening to also today, which is still phenomenal, and everyone should go listen to that as well. Um, and then now here we are in 2024. Well, technically 2025 as of recording, but in 2024 you released the debut LP, Big Hand, um, which, like I said, is a phenomenal record. I love all the influences kind of shining through. I love all the different styles coming through. Um, one question I kind of ask a lot is, you went EP, and then this is the first full length. How, like, was there a daunting feeling deciding to do a full length, or like, how did the idea come about?
Yeah, for me specifically, it was kind of daunting at first. Mostly because I've never done an LP before. I've never done a full-length record. Like like I said, coming from mostly a hardcore background, it's like, 7 inches are like, at least when I was growing up, now they're a little more expensive and they're a little more rare to see, but that was kind of like the extent of, if you did an LP, it was like, you know, uh you were so I just did a lot of bands that just pretty much stopped right after the 7 inch stage, or just did multiple EPs and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, that's my preferred hardcore format. Like I don't have always had the attention span, especially with hardcore music, to sit through an entire LP. So, like when it comes to records like Jawbreaker or something like that, I'll listen to full length records all day. But like just yeah, just an aside, I guess. But I so it was kind of daunting to me. But the rest of the guys, they've all been in bands that's the norm. Like uh, you know, you do a demo, then a 7 inch, then an LP, and then maybe another LP, and then uh, and a lot of people, it's not like we factored in what the public was asking for too much, but we were kind of like, it would be fun to do an LP, but is that too much to drop at once, because in
Mm.
today's like climate, it seems like the smaller releases do better as far as all that. But a lot of people seemed like they really wanted a full length. And then a huge factor of it also is we really just like the idea of being able to kind of get into these parts we have and lengthen them out and kind of make a more like cohesive um piece of work, where, maybe in like one song or something like that on a, like Wash Away, there'll be a part that's kind of like, oh yeah, this is a cool kind of Rites of Springy kind of like part, but I wish we played it a little bit longer, or I wish we explored that idea and that riff a little bit more, you know. So just having the room to like do all that on an LP was really nice. And that was a major draw of wanting to do that.
Yeah. And the nice thing is too, since you guys lean more in the hardcore style, like even though it's an LP, it is 10 songs. I think it comes out to like 23 minutes of a runtime. So it's like that nice sweet spot where you're still hooked with everything that's going on, and then it ends, and you're like, okay, there's not more, but I want to listen to more. So then it's a quick and easy like restart of just going back and like doing it all again. Because full lengths, as much as I love people doing full lengths, more power to them. Like you said, sometimes it can be kind of hard to sit through and listen to a full length, especially when you're hitting that like 30 minute, 40 minute mark. And it's like, okay, like how
Yeah.
much is left? And you're kind of just dreading that time where this, I was dreading that there wasn't enough there. So I was able to like kind of restart.
Yeah, there's a lot of records and bands that we emulate and love from the 90s and stuff that they had such good stuff going on, but like maybe they didn't need like the 18 song record, or like, like maybe like when you get to that third Foo Fighters chorus, you're kind of like, all right, I get it, this song did not need to be 4.5 minutes. So we've suffered through all that, so you don't have to, we'll just take the good Foo Fighters riff and play it, and then we'll play it one time so you can just get it,
Yeah.
get it once and be done, and then like you said, I mean, it kind of makes sense too with like, I don't know, like as uh with like today's like day and age, I guess, is it's like when you were listening to music on the radio and stuff like that in the 90s, I feel like, to really hammer in choruses and stuff like that, and also just because you don't have the replayability because it's on the radio, it kind of makes sense to have the chorus 3 times, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I remember a lot of those songs because the chorus runs 3 or 4 times, or the hook repeats itself so many times. So there is, I think, some value to that, but we're well beyond that at this point. And then also just like I said, I don't have the attention span for that kind of stuff, so we try to not let the part, like wear out like that. Um, but also, yeah, still have enough like room to do its own thing and fit in comfortably.
Yeah, yeah. This record does great on that, and I know um, for people that might not have checked it out yet, like if you're a fan of what I'm gonna blank on their name. They just put out a new record too, and I'm gonna feel so bad. Um, I'll come back to that for everyone listening. Insert it in a little bit, but it's it's such a good record. Like it reminded me of a lot of sick bands that it's gonna bug me that I can't think of the one. But I like to do this thing every once in a while too, where like I'll listen to the record and just like let my phone tell me like what it thinks is gonna play next on like when it goes into like the radio style. Drug Church. That's who I was thinking of. Like I got big Drug Church vibes. It did go into a Drug Church song right after your guys' record. There was some Anxious in there, and like a lot of killer bands that are doing amazing stuff right now. And your record fit in perfectly with that. So everyone listening and is a fan of that style of like hardcore, you're gonna love this record. And I was also getting every once in a while like I'd get some like backtrack vibes because I used to listen to them a lot. So it was nice to kind of like have that nostalgia feeling coming back every once in a while listening to this. But it was just fun to listen to all day because I if I could two step properly, one, I wouldn't want to do it in my corporate job, but it wanted me to, like, I felt like I needed to do it at my corporate job today. But I didn't want to look like a complete idiot in front of like all these people.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, we get the drug church like likening a lot. And actually the record we just did, the Big Hand, we recorded with John Markson, who has done like the last like 3 or 4 drug church records. He's done One Step Closer, Koyo, a lot of those bands that are in the same kind of realm as us,
Hmm.
and like I said, we get, a ton of comparisons to Drug Church, which we always find very like we understand. It's not what we set out for initially. You know what I mean? It's not like
Right.
but I do feel like we're definitely pulling fruit from a lot of the same tree. Like we're we're just like ourselves just to be like 90s alt rock with like a hardcore lens on it. And I think that that's a lot of what they're doing. And they do it in a different way, in a way that we're both in our own lanes, but like we've played shows with them before, and it makes sense, on the bill sonically and stuff like that. We get it all the time and stuff like that. And they're also like an incredible band live. I don't know if you've seen them before,
Yeah,
but
I've gotten to see them once live. I think I got really lucky. It was them, Story So Far, and Turnstile. This would have been like
the,
2015.
yeah, they're they really sold me when I saw them live. And actually, that's funny. That new Story So Far record that just came out, they were like walking into the studio as we were walking out to record
Oh, nice.
that. So John, the guy who's produced that record for us, has been on absolute fire like the last year. So I just named off a ton of stuff that he's done, but there's probably so much more that like gel stuff he did. Just he's all over the place and behind the scenes everywhere. So he did a great job with it.
Yeah, did a phenomenal job with how this came out. I know, um, obviously it came out back in October, and like just seeing like the hype that I like the friends of mine that have listened to it, like they all love it. With it also, you guys have put out 2 music videos, one for Pack Rat and one for Crawlback, which the Pack Rat video is uh, amazing. You guys, for people that haven't checked it out, quick synopsis: you guys are playing in like a garage. It cuts to someone dresses basically a rat in the garage that's starting to pack it with all their goodies. Um, how did you convince someone to don that costume for this video?
That video shoot was actually like so. we were supposed to shoot a video for our song Sunshine, and we met up that morning, and it was going to be this video shoot outdoors. Basically, the premise of the video was going to be uh, it's a love song, so it was going to be uh, a guy in an office building who has a crush on his coworker, and she wants to take him on a picnic date, but he's a vampire, and so he can't go in the sun or else he gets burnt. So they end up finding a solution with a giant umbrella to get him on the date. Anyway, this was all I had storyboarded it all out. It was all good to go. And then the uh, subjects who or the actors, that's probably the best way to put it, that we were going to use, both got COVID
Oh,
that morning. They
jeez.
called me at like 5 a.m. and we had like a deadline we needed a video for. So we all met that morning for coffee, the Squint guys, and we were like, we have to come up with something today. So we put a pin in the Sunshine video idea and said, we'll worry about that later. We're gonna switch which song the video for right now. Um, and initially, the video idea we had for Pack Rat was going to be me walking around the city of St. Louis, being chased by Ian, our guitarist, in like a rat costume that
Hmm.
Will, our drummer, was making. He had like a paper mache mold that he had put to Ian's face, and then he started, like building off of it and building this rat mask. And we were gonna have, like me walking down the street, him coming out of an alley, and then, maybe cut to me on the bus, and I look up and he's across the aisle from me, and then I get off the bus and I get on a like a bird scooter, and then look behind me and he's behind me on the bird scooter. Anyway, we had this whole thing planned for it, and but we decided just basically let's just get rid of that whole idea where we're running all around town, and we'll do something where the rats involved with us and we're just doing like a live video shoot thing. We were like, all right, that's all we got right now. Let's go to Will's and we'll figure it out. Um, so we went to Will's and we were kind of coming up with it as we were going. And very randomly, they live in Paris. Ian's sister and her fiance Alex, um, they live in Paris, but they were in St. Louis visiting. And Alex is like a filmmaker over there. He does like independent films and stuff like that. Um, so they had called Ian. They were going to come drop something off for him. And Ian was like, actually, we're shooting a music video. Do you guys want to come help since you're like music video people, So Maddie and Alex showed up, and Alex ended up shooting the whole thing for us because he knows a lot more about cameras than we do and stuff like that. And he had all these cool like shot ideas. That's why there's so many, just yeah, cool like angles and stuff like that, and just like he's like, we will put the camera behind the exhaust pipe, and it will come out, and we're like, sure, man, and it looked awesome,
Yeah.
Uh, and then when we were gonna have Ian be the rat still, but we realized we couldn't do the live performance stuff if he was also the rat running around behind us. So since his sister was there and they basically had the same face, we just stuck the rat mask on his sister. And so yeah, shout out to Madeline. She was a trooper about it. She had that mask paper mache thing on for like probably 5 hours. Um, but yeah, we shot it all in like that time period, and then I still made it to work that night and everything. So, but
Hell yeah.
it was a scrambling day. We had to figure something out, and uh, so I'm like thrilled to hear you like number one understand the premise, because I was just like, I hope this makes sense, and no one's like, what is this thing and what are they doing, and then also I'm just glad to hear that you thought it was cool, because I was hoping it wouldn't come out looking slopped together and low budget or anything, but
No, that yeah, it came out amazing. It's crazy that like how resourceful you guys ended up being in that one day to kind of like meet the deadline of putting this all together. Granted, don't get me wrong, it would have been cool to watch to see you get chased around town by a rat. Just have like that like kind of like psycho like suspensefulness of it, but like just what you were able to come up with and like the angles that they decided to use for a lot of those shots. Like I think one of my favorite shots is and forgive me for forgetting the name, but like your guitar player on your right side when he kind of like pops in and like says his lines in your
Oh
camera
yeah,
shot.
that's
Uh,
Ian. Yeah, yeah.
that's Ian. Okay, like though, like that like shot got me every time. Like it's such a cool shot, and when he's just doing that, but then like, yeah, it came out great. I loved it.
Thank you. Yeah, we have done most of our videos ourselves. That the other one you mentioned, crawback, we did that with a friend. So that's why that one looks so professional compared to all the other ones we've done in the past. But Will, our drummer, used to do a little bit of videography for other bands and his old band, and then he so he just does in the past has done most of the filming and the editing and all that kind of stuff for it all. Um, but yeah, like we put out a video for Pigpen off of Wash Away, and that was the first video we shot. We actually, again, just being resourceful. Ian, who plays guitar in Squint, he owns a hot dog restaurant, so we just shot the video inside the hot dog restaurant. And then we shot another music video where we have it's basically the band playing a live set, but it's all done with hand puppets.
Okay.
And we just made those all ourselves. Us and like our girlfriends and wives and stuff like that spent like 5 nights, 1 week just putting together these little dolls of ourselves. And you can find it all on YouTube and stuff like that. But yeah, we try to keep it pretty DIY, I guess, you know. Like I said, we use resources from our friends and stuff like that, but I still consider that, you know, DIY or within the
Oh
community,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. As long as you're not spending like thousands of dollars, then it's definitely DIY. Like those videos too, like always come out so much, sometimes a lot cooler, just because you get to kind of do on your own schedule and like kind of work on what you want to do. Like I have some friends from Iowa, they in a band called TV Cop. All their music videos they've done just in house, like using an iPhone, and it's just cool the shit that they can come up with and like put together, and then still have it come out like a pretty like a good music video. And it might not be like it might not have been like on Vivo back in the day, but it's still like a sick ass music video to like watch every once in a while.
I mean, even that, like looking back, a lot of times I'm like one of my favorite videos growing up was like the first date Blink 182 video. And when you watch that back, you're like, they were just not phoning it in, but like, you know, like what are these outfits? They just, threw on what they had laying around. It's not like, a high budget thing at all. They're just like playing inside of like an actual garage, So, um, yeah, a lot of times, a lot of the stuff that I think back on, so like bright and like, Hollywood and stuff like that. Now that I have the lens that I do on things, I'm able to like look at that stuff and be like, wait a minute, they're just doing what we're doing, or like, yeah.
Well, yeah, like even the Sum 41 In Too Deep video, like all they did was like rent out a pool and just drain it. Like it's really not like big budget, and yeah, they do some dives at the end, but it's not like when you get to and I always think about this music video when it comes to like high budget, but like when Pierce the Veil and Sleeping with Sirens did King for a Day, like that whole like there's that whole storyline in that music video where like I think that video is like double what it probably should be for like that song just because of everything that's going on with it. But like you see like kind of like our roots of just doing it just DIY to what they could just like throw down and get done, and then like just how much that's evolved and how like now we're kind of reverting back just because people feel like there's like I have some friends that are like no one watches music videos anymore, so like
Yeah.
now people are like just doing it more DIY, which now we're getting like cool videos still for like that still look amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you said that about Sum 41 because that puppet video I mentioned that we did, one of the big influences on it was I forget what Sum 41 video it is, but where they have all the action figures and they're
Mm-hmm.
like they've got their faces like they've got like, the band members' faces printed out on like shitty computer paper, just like put on the GI Joe and stuff like that, and they're like getting head from the Barbies and stuff like that, and that was one of the big inspirations for that video. But but yeah, no, it is kind of becoming like I don't want to say a pointless endeavor, but it's hard to like justify spending a ton of money on it, you know?
Right.
I don't think we ever will, you know? Like I shouldn't say ever, but at least, you know, with what our current like interests are and stuff like that, um, I think we can, you know, like allocate that money and effort better, you know, and just keep doing the more DIY kind of like half-baked fun little video ideas that we have because you know we're also not the most theatrical band in general, you know. One of the reasons we recorded the LP with John is because we feel like across the board with all the records he's done, he does a really good job at capturing this almost like Albini-esque like raw energy of like a live band, you know, on recording.
Hmm.
Um, and we're like that, you know, we're not a polished band or anything like that. We're very like um, you know, if the riff is a little dirty, it's gonna stay that way kind of thing. And if we're a little out of tune, it's because that's how it should be, you know, because we're bumping into each other and stuff like, you know what I mean? It's like yeah, it's just kind of rough around the edges and all that. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
No, I get what you're saying. Where it's like it's not you guys don't have like that polished sound. You have what I would equate it to is like kind of like more of a obviously still working with him where it's a polished record, but it's more of like a that DIY sound at the same time where you know like you said if something's out of tune, it's gonna be out of tune. Like that's how it should be, and that's how you're gonna do it. Um, and like that shit's always cool too, because like hearing that grittiness on a record sometimes is nice rather than just listening to a fully polished and cleaned up record because then it really makes you feel like it gives you a sense of the band, I guess.
definitely, yeah. I mean, even John was saying it in the studio and stuff. He was, you know, he had this guitar called a Evertune or a Nevertune. I don't know, but it just never goes out of tune. It's perfectly like it has, I guess, locks on it or something like that to where it will just always stay in tune. And he was saying they use that a lot on the newer One Step Closer record because they have so many parts that are like melodic and need to be, you know, like the note, the
Hmm.
true note, you know, and so it benefits a sound like that more. Um, but you know, obviously we didn't use that record or that guitar once on our record. There's all kinds of yeah, you know. And then there's feedback all over it and stuff like that. I don't. John did a very good job of understanding what you know, listening to our old EPs and stuff like that, hearing what we've done. He completely understood like what we were going for. Um, and also, like I said in the past, having like been likened to so many bands that he's worked with, you know, having so many people go, "You guys are awesome. You guys remind me of Drug Church," or "You guys are awesome. You remind me of One Step," or "You guys remind me of Koyo," or something. It's like that's all really awesome and flattering because those bands are great, but we also want to make sure we're like carving our own lane and doing our own thing. And so it helps to record with the guy who records those bands because you're able to go, hey, you know, like maybe there's some little tricks and little things you do with those bands that, you know, I mean, obviously make the record sound good. Don't be like,
Hmm.
well, I make Drug Church sound good. You guys don't want to sound like that. So, you know, but, you know, just lean into our, you know, like, I guess good qualities and characteristics and stuff like that. And, you know, help us just, yeah, like, you know, be our own thing. And I think he did a great job with that, you know, like when we were doing the vocals specifically, he was very like, we're just going to do your vocals pretty straight on. Like, we're not going to do any kind of, you know, we'll do doubles, but mostly just for, you know, like we'll do multiple takes, but mostly just so I can have more things to pick from, not for layering as much. Cause he's like, you know, you have a very direct voice. It's very hardcore. It's what keeps you guys like a hardcore band. We don't want to lose that by throwing a bunch of delay on it or, you know, melodic aspects or anything. And I was like, right on board with him. I was
Yeah.
pretty much ready to go in there and tell him that's how I view the band ahead of time. And then I sat down and he was just like, "Look, man, here's what I think." And I was just like, "Perfect, dude." And yeah, I feel like as a whole, he totally understood what the band wanted, but then also each individual member, he was able to kind of like, you know, look at, like I said, like our backgrounds and our what we bring to the table, and he's just very good at reading people, and he's very just like almost to like a like a Rain Man-esque sense. He's like just really good at music. You know what I mean? Like he's watching him on like record things and just you know doing all the computer stuff, and I don't know. It's obviously he's been doing it for a while, and but like the way he listens to music is like I would be like this song's kind of got like almost like My Bloody Valentine-esque like feel to it, like the is there any way we can like throw some of that effects on it or something? And he's just like, My Bloody Valentine. I haven't checked them out in a while. Let me pull it up real quick. And he would pull up a song and he would just go like click, click, click. And it would be through the song like 30 seconds in, 50 seconds in, 1 minute in. And it'd be like click, click, click. Okay, I get the vibe. And then he would just like put some pedals together and it would be the perfect tone. And it's just like, I don't know, just the way he's able to pick up on things, or he'd be like he's a bassist in his other bands. He plays in Such Gold, and he's in that band I Am the Avalanche. He's been playing with them recently, uh and he's just like an absolute monster on the bass. And there's was so many times on the record that he was just like, can I see that real quick? Can I just like, he would say, "Can I have a pass?" And Jake would hand him the bass, and he would just play like the sickest bass line, or sometimes it would be a little too far left field, and we'd be like, I
Hmm.
don't know about that, John. But there was a lot of stuff that he did that, Jake would be like, all right, what were those notes, buddy? And uh, yeah, he's just, we loved working with him, and hopefully we'll work with him for the next record. We don't really have any set plans yet as far as um, what we're going to do, but we are writing for another release. So
Hell yeah. But that's awesome to hear that, because that's, I feel like, always the daunting thing with going with someone that like has been producing all these amazing records is you might go in there and might get like steamrolled and not have them like fully understand your vision at the same time of like, no, like we get that you do those bands, but we don't want to fully sound like them. Like we're obviously our own thing, because I feel like you sometimes, depending on where people go, you kind of get records that kind of sound similar in a vein. But it's nice to know that like he understood your vision and got it, and like was like, oh no, like he's treating each band kind of separately, no matter, even though it's all kind of like the same genre, but all different at the same time. So that's
definitely,
wonderful to hear.
yeah, he's been working with actually I saw on your back catalog that band Dosser you guys had on here.
Oh yeah.
He's done a bunch of stuff with them as well, and they're very far out of the kind of realm that we do and stuff. So I mean, he's all over the place, and he's very respectful of the band. Like you said, he doesn't go to it with any kind of like preconceived notion as far as like, all right, I saw pictures of these guys. They've all got Bane t-shirts on. I get the vibe. He's going into it with like an open mind with nothing but the music, and like, yeah, it kind of, at first you kind of get that imposter syndrome kind of thing, where you're like, he's recorded all these big bands, and it's crazy that I'm here. And um but like as you get more comfortable too, it also makes, I don't know, like the idea of like those big bands seems so much smaller. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like when you're sitting there going like, you know, like we're playing like the Nintendo 64 that like all these other bands sit there and play, or we're like pulling up the YouTube search or whatever, and it's got all the people's previous stuff. It's just like, it's, I mean, obviously coming from like a punk and hardcore background, that these people aren't like larger than life or anything, but it's very like, no, everybody's just here making music just like I am.
Yeah.
Uh, and you get, yeah, it's nice to be treated the same no matter like what your band's level or like stature is, you know. Um, John's just trying to hang out and make a good record. So
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah, it makes you feel kind of go back to that feeling of like, oh no, like how do people say it? Like everyone was an opening band at some point. Like it's we're all kind of back to that same level. Like you guys are just hanging out in the studio, like just like everyone else. Like you're all on the same level at that point.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, I know I know we've jumped around on this record, had a few different tangents, but like, is there anything I might be missing on this record that like you want the people to know about? I can't stress enough how good of a record this is, and I'm stoked to order my copy of this probably after we get done recording, which we'll talk links for everyone else that wants to get records after this. But is there anything I might have missed between the record or Squint in general?
No, just yeah, we're just trying to write fun, upbeat, hardcore music. Um, we're very much like me personally, I like the idea of being like a gateway band for people, you know. I like the idea of younger kids coming out and seeing Squint and, maybe understanding now that they want something a little bit harder, and then they find hardcore or something like that through that. Um, we're also very, open to the opposite, where we might be the hardest band that somebody likes, but as long as we can be teetering right on that edge and never fall off it, then, um, and then yeah, just also uh yeah, come out to a show, I guess is the main thing that we want as a band in
Yeah,
general. Like I know that's not really necessarily reflective of the record, but I think that if you enjoy the record, you will definitely enjoy a live set and the atmosphere that we have. It's very energetic and fun and dangerous. I always say it's not violent, it's dangerous, Like
yeah.
if you want to get hurt, you can, but you're probably not going to, so don't. Um, but
Do you
yeah,
guys
and then
have
I
any?
guess sorry, I was just gonna I guess the only thing I would say about the record is just there's a lot of like it's reflective of like a lot of growth that I've had over the last few years. I had stopped drinking during COVID, so I have been working on my relationship with, like myself and my sobriety and stuff like that since then. Um, so just that, if anybody else who's listening to the record or anything finds any solace in any of the lyrics or anything, I'd love to talk to them about it at a show or anything like that. So that's all I really got to say about the record.
Hell yeah. Well, congratulations on on doing that. I know that's a big step for a lot of people, um, and I commend you for doing that and sticking with it.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. It's just one of those things that didn't work for me, so I just quit doing it.
Yeah. Uh, Speaking of live shows, do you guys have any tours planned for 2025 yet?
Yeah, so next weekend we're going to be doing a little run. We got Memphis, Atlanta, and Louisville. That'll be the January 17th, 18th, 19th. I don't know when this comes out. It might be after that, but
Yeah, I think this is going to come out the first Friday in February as of right now.
okay.
So those were
Well,
packed, sold out shows for everyone that
yeah,
missed
yeah.
it.
We're glad you all pulled up. But then we're going to be mostly laying low during February and March, just trying to write and save up some finances. We're still kind of personally recovering from being gone for a month in Europe, so it's like, yeah. But and then in April we're looking at heading out to the West Coast finally. So
Hell yeah.
we haven't announced any of that yet, but yeah, if you live out west, you'll hopefully see us. We're hoping to make it the whole way up and down the coast. So, it's not going to just be California or not just SoCal or anything. We're hoping to make it all the way up to the Northwest. So we've had a lot of requests and we're very excited.
Yeah.
Everything here's covered in snow right now. So I'm sure you feel me, but I don't
Yeah.
know. Is it
Thankfully,
is it really bad up there?
No, it's just been cold the past few days. Like we had snow right before Christmas, and most of it's all pretty much gone now. But I mean, you guys just had that whole ice storm and snowstorm go through like just a day or two ago.
Yeah, it's been nuts. I've been walking to work just because I don't want to deal with getting my car stuck
Mm,
and yeah, so but what can you do? And you're
right.
probably used to it all the time. Every time I've been to Minneapolis, it's been freezing up there, so
Yeah, it kind of sucks. My kitchen pipes are frozen. They have been for the last 3 days, and probably will be frozen for like another four until it finally warms up again. But that's Midwest life.
hey, we actually just played a fest up there called Snow and Flurry. So if that says
Oh yeah,
anything,
dude.
yeah, yeah.
Next time you guys are in town, we'll have to link up because Snow and Flurry's held like 5 minutes from my house. Like that
Oh, that's
venue is
wild.
real close.
Yeah, it was cool. We hung out there all day and then we went over to have you ever heard MJ Linderman? He's like a
Oh yeah,
singer-songwriter guy. He was playing like down the street from Snow and Flurry. So after Tsunami, we walked down there and watched him. It was quite the dichotomy. It was like, huh, I was just watching kids get their heads split open during Tsunami, hearing the guy yell, "You're a bitch," and now I'm like, watching this psychedelic like jam band. But yeah, it was a fun time. That's a cool festival, and I really we really like Minneapolis. We've been up there a couple times, so next time we pull through, we'll definitely holler at you.
dude, hell yeah. Yeah, I've yet to make it to Snow and Flurry. I mean, this year's lineup, the one that you guys were on, obviously was stacked. Like you said, they had Tsunami there, and I had some other friends that were playing on that bill, and that it was a stacked bill, and it's I don't know timing every year. I never able to make it, but one of these years I gotta fucking finally go to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but hopefully everyone that's listening that is on the West Coast gets to go see you, gets to go listen to, gets to see Golden State live, played by obviously Squint, because that'll be kind of cool playing that there. Um, as we start to transition into the later half of this episode, this is obviously beers with bands. You don't have to be drinking on these episodes. I would definitely do that for you, but I know you are drinking a beverage on this fine Wednesday. What are you drinking today?
So I was just at the corner store by my work. It's a nice little like local grocery store. It's not like a 7-Eleven or something. So they had a pretty fine selection of non-alcoholic beers. But I just kind of went with what looked cool, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Like, and then also this pack had like four different ones in it. So I think the company's it's called Untitled Art, I think. And this one's the Juicy IPA. And then as my backup back here, I got a American Gold one.
nice.
And then in the fridge, there's an Italian Pilsner that I think I'm gonna give to my girlfriend because yeah, yeah, I think she'll like that. Because she likes trying the foreign stuff more. So
Mm. Does the IPA hit or not?
it's good. Yeah, I've always liked IPAs. Um, they get a lot of hate. I feel like at least in my friend group, everybody's always like, it tastes like you're licking a log, or it tastes like a wet dog or something. But I I've always enjoyed them. I saw you. What are you drinking? A Hams?
Yeah, I got a good old hams.
Hey, I mean, those were a staple growing up in Midwest punk. So
Dude, right?
cheers to you. But
Well, it's cheap. It's what's already in the fridge, so can't go wrong with good old hams.
definitely, yeah. We St. Louis is a pretty big beer city, so we've got a lot of cool stuff down here. Obviously, I don't partake too much anymore, but there's a brewery here called Four Hands that does pretty cool stuff, and they also are pretty supportive of the punk scene here. So
Hell
shout
yeah.
out to them. They donated a bunch of beer to our listening party, and then they're constantly doing you know, like they'll if you have like a show and you hit them up to sponsor it, they're just like, "How much beer do you need? How much money do you need?" They're pretty cool about that. So
That's awesome.
just wanted to give them a shout out.
Yeah, that's always sweet when you find a spot that's like so cool about that. Like I know people have been like bands have been doing collabs with, like different breweries, like making their own, but like to have a brewery just like also support in not just making a specific brew, but like being like, hey, like we'll supply beer, money, whatever to help with the show. Like that's fucking sick.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because yeah, it's kind of interesting within the hardcore community because so many people are straight edge,
Yeah.
but with non-alcoholic options becoming more and more of a thing, it's like, it kind of makes sense to an extent, like a lot of, especially in St. Louis, I don't want to say a lot of people, but there's a handful of people here who are, you know, there's a lot of straight edge kids who are coming from youth into straight edge, So
Yeah.
if they did drink or anything like that, it was just trying things out a little bit when they were younger. But there is a handful of people in the community here who are, more like myself, and stuff like that, where we did used to enjoy drinking. Now we're older, we're sober, and we still enjoy stuff like that. So it's nice to, I don't know. It's surprising like walking around shows sometimes. There's a bar here in town where we do most of our hardcore shows. Most of the ones that I book are done there. It's called Platypus, and they always have a ton of non-alcoholic cocktails, but it's always really interesting, It's like when the kid with the X'd up fist walks up to you with like one of these, and you're like, "What's that?" And he's like, "It's an IPA," and you're like, "What?" Like he's like, "Yeah, I like this shit. I just don't drink it." It's like eating a tofurkey, but you're vegan. It's like I still like the way it tastes, but I don't want to
Right.
do it. So
Uh, that's great. That there's that's such a good scene too. That like I remember one time, since we're kind of getting into the story section, this is where we kind of talk about some fun stories from your time music, whether they're horrendous, tremendous, any adjective in between, shows, tours, time recording, all that fun stuff. But I remember one time we were in Colorado Springs, and my our guitar player had just gotten like a fresh drink from the bar with his like drink tickets that he had, and some guy came. It was it was kind of funny looking back on it, but like some guy came out of nowhere, like right when a band was about to start, and like he might have been straight edge or not. I never figured out, but he like spun around, slapped the drink out of his hand, so it just like went everywhere, and then just like disappeared into the pit. And it was just like he ninja'd it so fast. Looking back, like it was funny because like there was no way we would have like been able to say anything to him, but it was just like more like he had just gotten that drink, and it was just like brand new and just destroyed it everywhere. It was just like, dude,
damn, and then just disappears into the sea of straight edge anonymity. It's just
yeah.
like you're trying to find the kid as the show ends, and it's just like a sea of kids with X'd up fists. You're like, which one is it? Um, yeah, no, I saw a lot of stuff like that when I was younger. Which when I was a kid, when I was straight edge from like 13 to 19 probably. Which if you aren't now, you never were. But that I adhered to that lifestyle at that age. And when I was like 16, there was a band from Peoria, Illinois called Waster that I
Hmm.
saw, and they were one of the first like hardcore punk bands. Like there was a lot of metalcore in the community that I was, like in my part of, you know, the country, and where I was going to shows and stuff. And they were this band Waster was playing a bill with a bunch of metalcore bands. So they just like stood out immediately. They opened with like a Minor Threat cover, which at the time I didn't know what it was, but I remember their singer. Every kid in the venue had like a cigarette in their hand because it was back when you could smoke inside venues if they allowed it. This one
Yeah.
definitely did, and yeah, like every like kid 14 or up had a cigarette in their hand. And I remember that the singer of that band going up there and going, "Smells like cigarettes in here. I fucking hate that shit." And picked up an ashtray and just smashed it on his head. And it was like a thick, thick glass ashtray. And all those kids in the crowd just being like, putting it out so fast. And my little straight edge ass just being like, like, I don't know what this band is, but they haven't even started yet, but I fucking love them. And Yeah, so I was kind of about the ignorant straight edgeness when I was younger, but as I've gotten older, obviously I don't think it's cool to kick beers out of hands. That being said, though, if you are in the danger zone and you got a beer in your hand,
Yeah, that's
that's
different.
on you.
Yeah, yeah. If you get close to the pit and you get your beer knocked out, like that's on you. You should have been holding it over here or not up in the danger zone. But if you're 10 feet from the danger zone, closer to the bar than the danger zone,
Oh
then
yeah,
you
yeah.
got a problem. But
There's
but
a
yeah, if you
line,
get
yeah.
close, yeah,
It's a scale, and
yeah.
yeah, if you go too far on the scale for sure. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's always funny watching the people that are in the danger zone that like are like my beer. It's like you shouldn't have. You gotta protect yourself, man. Like don't do that.
I, I was telling my buddy Luke, one of the younger kids who goes to shows here the other day, that like you have to. It's funny. I'm like, watch during the next band. Like St. Louis has a style to the way in which people two step
Mm-hmm.
because you have to adapt to all the beer on the ground. You can't like swing your legs too much because you'll fall because there's the ground's so slippery. So everybody kind of does this like pivot thing.
Okay,
And it's like it's out of necessity, but over a while, it becomes like the thing. So
that's kind of cool that you guys have like a staple of like your version of like the hardcore two step. Like because when people think of like hardcore, I feel like it's like the East Coast, West Coast, kind of like rap. It's like East Coast, West Coast, but it's nice that like St. Louis here in the Midwest has like their own version of doing something that like they aren't dealing with out there, or like they could be, but
it's
like they aren't as
I'm
like you
probably
know what I'm saying.
exaggerating it, but I think it's in its early stages of, like adapting into, yeah, a full on like, oh, you see him, he's over there doing the St. Louis move. Um, did you ever see I forget what video it is, but there's an old Sick of It All video that they have just like it's like a how to mosh video, and it's got Sick of It All playing live, but then it has little cut scenes and stuff, and it's got a guy two stepping all cool and clean, and it says New York style, and then the next guy is like two stepping like a dork and trips, and it says West Coast style. It's such a sick burn, but and I have no dog in the fight since I'm from the
Right.
Midwest, but yeah,
Yeah, we get to make fun of both sides.
exactly, yeah, because they don't even know where we are.
Right.
If you're like, I'm in Missouri, they're like, what the hell is that? And you're just like,
Dude, I grew up in Iowa, and then people would get it confused with either Ohio or Idaho. So it was great.
Ohio, Iowa, yeah. Ohio, Iowa, Iowa.
Yeah.
I get it, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
understand why some guy from Pennsylvania wouldn't understand what Ohio, Iowa is, you know what I'm saying?
Except the amount of time they'd be like, "Where are you guys from?" And we're like, "Iowa," and they're like, "Slipknot," and we're like, "Yeah, that's it.
That's
You
how
got it."
that's how it is with Nelly here, but that's all we got is Nelly in the arch.
Hmm. Uh, we kind of hinted at it a little bit earlier, but Squint got to go to Europe this year for a decent amount of September. It looked like. Uh, was that your first time like going to Europe just to play music?
Yeah, this is my first time leaving the country other than when I was younger, my older band did like some dates in Canada and stuff like that. But yeah,
Hmm.
that was my first time ever going on a plane overseas. My first time ever going on a plane to go play shows. It was pretty surreal. It was all very like uh dream-like feeling. Though it's one of those things where I was trying to enjoy it as it was happening, but it was just all happening so fast and in such real time that it's like, it didn't even fully set in a lot until we got back home. And I was like, man, I was just, like maybe like there'll be like screensavers on our TV when we leave it for the dog, and it'll be like a beautiful, like landscape, and it'll say like Netherlands in the corner. And then I'm like, holy crap, I've been there. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
uh, yeah, it still just feels like it didn't really happen, but in a good way. It was awesome.
That's amazing that you guys got to do that. I know like a lot of big things for bands are getting tapes or getting vinyl done, but getting to go to Europe, that's like a whole nother like mark on the checklist of like things to do, bucket list style. So that's really sick that you guys got to do that. Like, what were the shows like over there? Obviously, if you want to compare them to here, but like, how were the shows there in general?
They were great. We you know, we have a booking agency over there that we work with, Avocado Booking, and they've worked with a ton of other friends of ours. Um, like I'm really good friends with the band Spaced, and I was talking to their singer Lexi like a week before Avocado emailed us, and she was just telling us about their Europe tour and all this, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. And she was like, yeah, so if Avocado ever hits you up, you should go with them. They're dope. And I was like, for sure, like that'll happen. And then like a week later, we got an email. So I don't know if she had anything to do with it, but so they presented the idea to us, and we were just like, yeah, dude, like if you think it'll be worthwhile and all that, and they were, sending us the money breakdown and stuff, and saying you'll have to buy your own plane tickets, but your van rental, all that kind of stuff will be covered by guarantees, and sending us, the breakdown of it all. We were all like, this sounds awesome. So um it kind of felt like one of those things where it's like, yeah, dude, like we're down, just let us know when. And then we got an email back and they were like, here's when. And we were like, okay, is this real? Like we bought the plane tickets. And it wasn't until we were like standing there at the first show that I was like, okay, this is really, we didn't get just like duped, like um but all the attendance was great and stuff like that. We would get itineraries from the booking agency, every day telling us how many tickets were sold and all that kind of stuff. Which a lot of that, it'd be like, all right, guys, you're playing a 300 cap room tonight, and there are 15 tickets sold. Good luck. And we're just like, cool. And then the room would be packed out. It was, I always got to keep in mind that tickets and hardcore are like a new thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like it's always been like a pay at the door kind of thing. So it's not really a good gauge of how the show's going to go. And
right.
there was several times, we'd pull up to the venue and go into the squat or whatever the place was, and it'd be a massive room and there'd be nobody there, and we'd be there for sound check, and I'd be like, this is going to be the one that sucks. And then we'd leave and we'd go explore all the cool stuff in the city and eat food and come back, and the room would just be like packed wall to wall, and it was like, okay, maybe this is another good one. Maybe tomorrow night will be the bad one, and we never had a bad one. So um yeah, I mean, shout out to Avocado for all that, but also just shout out to the UK and Europe in general for like, you know, coming out to shows like they do, um and checking out music like they do. Like it was pretty surreal having kids know the words to songs and stuff. And um, yeah, it was all just a pretty unreal experience.
Yeah, I've had some friends that have gone, and that's kind of what I always hear is like you're like Europe. If you make it over there, like they show up for shows, and like they pack out and like they'll like go and like learn shit before like you actually play there. So it's like fucking surreal that like one you're in a completely different time zone, different side of the world, and like they know your shit, but it's also like a packed fucking house.
Yeah, and yeah, there were so many kids that were like, they would come up to us. I would see them singing along during the set. And they'd come up to me afterwards and be like, I really like your band. And I'd be like, oh, thank you so much. How'd you find out about us? And they would just be like, and just walk away. And it's like, oh shit, they Googled that one sentence. Like they don't know, you know what I mean? Like they don't. It was honestly like a very like heartwarming and like surreal in that kind of way, like experience to be like, not to be like corny, but be like, wow, music really does surpass like all of these barriers and and it also just made the world feel like such like a smaller place than, such like a less scary place than people growing up in the Midwest make you want to think it is.
Right.
That like, yeah, there's, all these people are different from you, but all it takes is just like one thing to scratch that surface and you can like be right there with them. Like we toured with a band over there called Fever Child. They're label mates of ours. They're on Sunday Drive Records, and they're an emo band from Belgium that's like incredible. They're like they do like it's like a sunny day real estate kind of like Texas is the Reason era of like emo, and they do it better than I think any other band that kind of like yeah. Um, everyone should check them out. They have a criminally low monthly listener count for how good they are. They need to, you know, and they'll have new music coming out. I think in the next couple of years or in the next year. So keep an ear to the ground for them. But going over there and just like you know, basically getting off the plane, going to the first show, you know, meeting all these people and I wasn't sure if there was going to be like a language barrier or like, anything like that. And within like 5 minutes of meeting them, it's like they're like my best friends in the world already. And like we're just sitting there, they're like, you're like, you're from America, bro. Have you seen like this band and this band? And I'm like, yeah, and they're like, that's fucking crazy. And then I'm like, well, you got to see Rise and Fall and Justice and all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, that's true, bro. I saw them a lot, bro. No, I mean, like, we're all just like nerding out over stuff from each other's area. And yeah, like I said, it really just made me feel like, like not that I'm ever like, you know, like letting any of that right wing bullshit propaganda get to my head and actually think that like, anything out there is like out to get me or anything like that. But it just solidifies that where it's like, the world's not such a scary place at all. And like our differences are such a small thing, compared to what keeps us, alike. So yeah. This is totally different than the Europe thing, but just on the same subject. Uh, my old band, one time we played uh on like a reservation out in like Arizona,
Hmm.
Um, and there was several kids at that show who just didn't speak any English at all. And my the band we were on tour with, this band called Head Creeps, they're not together anymore, but they were awesome. Um, one of the kids had a Misfits shirt on, and they were like, "Yo, this one's for you." And they just went into a Misfits cover, and all those kids who were like sitting there awkwardly beforehand, like like not conversing with anybody because they didn't speak any English or anything, all started singing along like every word. And I don't know, I just that what we were just talking about with like the like music uniting people and stuff like that. That's just like my earliest memory of just that feeling of like full body chills watching all these kids sing this Misfits song when they don't know what they're even saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, yeah, that's extreme aside, but I was just like, I gotta mention that if we're doing story time right now.
Yeah. Now I know there's gonna be a lot of listeners from Brazil that are gonna be like asking now, like, you guys went to Europe. When you come to Brazil, if you remember all every time that they would like comment on YouTube. So like,
Yeah.
when you guys going to Brazil to play for all the Brazilians now?
Hey, hit us up. Yeah, no, now that we got a taste of the international bug, we're like hungry for it. So, um, I think that we'll definitely be going back to Europe and UK in the next few years. We've already been talking to Avocado about setting all that up. And then we've got, our record label now is we have uh label mates like all over the world and stuff like that. So we were like lucky enough, like I said, to play with our Belgian label mates for 18 shows in a row. And then when we played in Paris, we played with a Sunday Drive band. So it's cool. We've already got to play with those international bands, and then we've got uh, friends in Japan and friends in Australia. So we're working on trying to get our way over there. We're pestering our label mates over there. So Hollow Suns and Secret World, book the flights for us, and we'll come. But
Dude, hell yeah, that'd be sick. Cause I remember, I don't know if it was I usually watch like the This Is Hardcore video that I think Noisy or Vice put out, but it mainly covers like New York. But I feel like in that when they either talk about Japan or Korea having like a sick, like really underground, like hardcore scene, uh, and like so hopefully that gets to work out where you get to go over that way and like experience all that because like that'd be fucking sick.
Yeah, no, it's a part of the world that I've, same as Europe kind of. I never had thought that I would go anywhere over there, so I don't say I never bothered to learn anything about it, but it was always like a fairy tale place in my head, so I never took, I never retained too much of the information. And that's how it kind of I am with over there too, And I'm sure it'd be even more so like that just based on the stuff that I've seen and the stories I've heard. But yeah, we've got some label mates over there. They're in a band called Hollow Suns. Everyone should check them out. They're like um, it's almost like uh, Incubus and like Failure and like Nirvana and stuff like that. They're really cool. But
Hell yeah.
they they've brought a ton of bands over, like Anxious and Cold World, and just a lot of those bands they've been bringing over to Japan for like 10 years now. So we just met those guys this last year, but like I said, we've already been pestering them, being like, "Hey, man, Can we come hang out?" So hopefully,
Yeah. No, yeah. Hopefully that gets to work out. I've never been to Europe, never been to Japan, so you have to go for me at this point, and I'll live vicariously through you guys, because that's amazing. And I mean, you got to experience a lot of cool things so far. I feel like with Squint, obviously getting to work with a great producer, put out this LP, go to Europe, and like I like to end off these episodes on a high note. And I know we're already talking about like some bomb moments from your time in Squint. So like this might be a difficult question. I can always ask a different one if you want. But like, what's your favorite moment that you've actually gotten to experience so far in the timeline of Squint?
um, I mean, it, definitely like uh everything you just said. I mean, like it's all very uh unreal that I've been able to do those things. And even just like hearing you say it now, it's like, damn, like sometimes it doesn't always feel like you're doing so much, and stuff like that. And then when you think about, the fact that we've pretty much been a band for just a little over 2 years, we've been able to do all that stuff. It's honestly like so incredible. But probably like the I don't know, the moment I can think about the most is just like watching kids sing along or jump off the stage like every time, you know what I mean? Like every time it happens, I just get this feeling that like, like I mean, the getting to travel and getting to like drink sick coffee and eat really good food all over the world and, not have to pay too much for it.
Yeah,
At least not like full vacation prices is absolutely incredible, and I don't ever want to sound like I'm taking that for granted, but like when I'm on stage and seeing that kind of stuff is really when it's like the most kind of like I'm doing what I've wanted to do moment, and I just remember myself being in that crowd when I was a kid and how much all that meant to me and how much it meant getting the microphone or diving off the stage and all that kind of stuff. So seeing kids do it and knowing that I'm like the one looking out for them and the one conducting it, it's like I did it, man. So
yeah, dude. Well, I hope those moments keep happening, and you get to keep experiencing those, and everything else, it, you know, keeps happening for you guys. Like this record's amazing. You guys are sick, and I'm just stoked for the future of Squint.
thanks so much. Yeah, me too. So
If anyone's looking for merch, music, or Squint in general, where can they find it?
uh Instagram is probably our most occupied social media outlet. We've got like Twitter and Facebook, but those are old boomer, like we don't use those. So Facebook or Instagram pretty much is where you can keep up with us. And then Sunday Drive Records for any merch that we're not, we shut down our web store when we have shows coming up or anything like that. Just so we can prioritize selling things live. Um, but Sunday Drive Records has pretty much all the stuff that you could want, and then also just live. There's certain things that we don't necessarily sell online that we do have live, you know.
Mm,
So even more encouragement to come out and check it out. So
yeah, yeah. Everyone get out to the shows, get some merch. I know the record, the full length is out on Sunday Drive Records. I think all the variants are still there. One might be sold out when I checked earlier. But then you can also get, if you want any of the EPs, you can get tapes for the first EP, and then I think the second EP is sold out because you guys are killing it and everyone wants their hands on it. But
I
you
I
go get
actually
copies.
I actually think that all the old stuff is sold out for the most part. Like all the old tapes and all the old even the old LPs I believe are sold out on Sunday Drive. For or the compilations, the Feel It All Wash Away.
Yeah.
I could be wrong though, and we do have those live, so we've still got our personal stash that we're not
Oh
throwing
yeah.
up um, on the web store or anything. And then, oh, just one other thing I did want to mention is if anybody who is listening to this wants us out to their city or anything like that, just to hit us up on Instagram. I do all the booking within the U.S. So yeah, just hit us up and I will pester you about it, you know. But yeah, if you hit us up, be ready for me to be like, if you're like, come to Hawaii and I DM you and I'm like, what's the Hawaii connect, like don't be surprised, but
Yeah. Be ready. Get them in
yeah,
Hawaii. See what it's like.
yeah, let's
Uh,
go.
is there any state that's on the list that you haven't been to yet that you want Squint to hit up that people should be trying to get you to?
Uh, I haven't been with Squint to the West Coast. We haven't been on the West Coast, East Coast, or Canada yet, which is it again kind of wild that we did Europe before all that. But when the opportunity presents itself. But we're hoping to hit all that this year. We do just from prior touring and stuff like that. Have I don't want to say we have connections everywhere, but you know, chances are I probably know someone in your state. So but it definitely helps us, especially when we're planning these little weekend runs and stuff like that. It helps to know, if you're like, hey, I know not everybody thinks of Knoxville, Tennessee as having the craziest hardcore scene, but if you want to come through, people in Knoxville want to see you. Then we would go, oh, awesome, we'll be to Knoxville then. So,
Right.
um, you know, I grew up doing that to bands, messaging them and going, come to Champaign, Illinois, where I'm from. But so yeah, do the same to us, and we'll work on getting there.
Hell yeah. Well, everyone send those DMs, get them to your cities. If depending on where you found this episode, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, or you watch the YouTube version again, see Brandon's lovely face like I did tonight. Hit the hyperlinks down below. Follow Squint on all the socials. Be ready for new music, new merch. Go get merch if you haven't already. Be ready for possible music videos. Be ready for those tours and go catch them on the West Coast because I won't be there, so you all have to do it for me. Um, one last big thank you to Brendan for taking the time out of your Wednesday to sit down with me and talk about your band.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for the interest. Like I said,
Hell yeah, dude! This is a great time. Stoked to have had you on. Everyone, go listen to Squint, go listen to Big Hand, and I'll catch everyone on the next episode. See ya.